The stars glimmered like frozen sparks above Earth when the Vrexian armada appeared. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the command deck of the Aurora Defense Station as countless alien dreadnoughts ripped through the upper atmosphere like doomsday comets. His fingers dug into the console's frame while the first plasma lances carved across the clouds and turned New York into a glowing lake of liquid fire. The city vanished in moments, and 3 million souls were gone before Jake managed a single breath. Lieutenant Amy Phillips hurled data toward him, but her voice drowned beneath screeching alarms. Another 12 cities fell in the next 5 minutes. Tokyo melted, London ceased to exist, and Sydney became a crater wide enough to drown mountains. The Vrexians had sent envoys half a year earlier with one demand: submit your sovereignty or be annihilated. Earth's united governments had rejected it, and now the cost arrived in ash and agony. Admiral Kevin Hayes issued the only order still possible: retreat the surviving ships to distant colonies and reform. The battle for Earth was lost before it even began. Jake watched desperate evacuation craft claw toward orbit as Vrexian hunters shredded them mid-flight. Some escaped. Others burst like dying stars. 3 billion humans perished in the invasion's first hour, and Jake Morrison could only witness, endure, and remember. The station rattled as hostile fire finally struck home. Jake and Amy sprinted for escape pods while steel walls tore open and air screamed into space. They reached the pod deck with 6 surviving personnel and launched as the Aurora cracked apart behind them. Through the tiny viewport, Jake saw Earth burning below. The blue cradle that had sheltered humanity for ages was now smothered beneath smoke and inferno. Yet something stirred beyond Neptune, in a frozen shadow where no public chart named the ice-coated moon. Forgotten machinery was awakening. The USS Retribution had been constructed in utter secrecy for 3 decades, nations united for one purpose. When humanity first heard alien whispers among the stars, the cautious minds had prepared for a hostile universe. They forged the Retribution as humanity's hidden shield, and at last that shield was rising. Captain Ryan Hughes stood on the vast command bridge and felt the vessel breathe to life beneath him. Quantum cores roared with energy, fit to ignite a minor star. Titan-class armaments, long dormant, drew their first charge. The hull of compressed neutronium, denser than worlds, shifted into battle-ready configuration. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter ran diagnostics, every system returning flawless. Ryan had spent 15 years training to command this Titan. He had prayed this moment would never arrive, the day the Retribution would be forced to abandon its secret cradle. But Earth was burning, billions were gone, and vengeance was all that remained. His mind drifted to his sister in Chicago, his parents living peacefully in San Francisco, all erased, reduced to dust beneath alien fire. The grief was a blade inside his chest, threatening to tear him open, yet Ryan shoved the agony down and sealed it away. Mourning could wait. The mission could not. The bridge crew worked with silent precision. Executive Officer Nicole Perry charted an intercept vector toward the Vrexian armada. Lieutenant Commander Greg Foster activated the weapons suite and announced the Helix cannon charged and primed. Dr. Helen Brooks verified the quantum displacement engines, confirming they could bend space and leap across the stars in mere seconds. Communications specialist Sam Rogers transmitted encrypted signals to surviving human forces, promising that humanity still had a fighting chance. Ryan stared at the tactical sphere showing Earth engulfed by hostile warships. The Vrexians still scourged the surface, erasing what little life remained. They meant to turn humanity into a warning, a flaming monument to any civilization that dared defy their empire. But the invaders had made one fatal error. They believed humanity powerless. They believed every warship had been destroyed. They had no knowledge of the Retribution. The ship's AI rendered firing vectors and tactical probabilities across Ryan's display. Neutronium plating would shrug off anything the enemy possessed. Antimatter lances could shatter worlds. The quantum fold drive meant they could strike anywhere, unseen and unstoppable. Every triumph of human science was forged into a single machine. It was more than a warship. It was humanity's answer to extinction, etched in steel and fury. Ryan issued the command. The Retribution surged forward. Space twisted and reality bent around the hull, and in a heartbeat, the ship materialized above Earth, directly inside the heart of the Rexian formation. Enemy sensors barely registered the anomaly before the Retribution's wrath ignited. The helix cannon roared, and 12 Rexian cruisers vanished without even shattering, simply erased, stripped to particles, and scattered into cosmic dust. Rail batteries spoke next, hurling tungsten rounds at near-light velocity, carving through hulls like they were paper. 30 more enemy vessels fell within 60 seconds. The Vrexian fleet attempted retaliation, but their fire fizzled against the shields and armor like rain against a mountain. Admiral Thexar, commanding the Rexian Third Armada, stared in horror as his fleet disintegrated. His analysts shrieked about impossible power signatures. His gunnery officers reported their plasma volleys did nothing. Thexar had conquered 47 worlds and never met a foe he could not crush. Yet here stood a species that refused to die. The battle raged 6 relentless hours. When silence finally fell, 430 Vrexian warships drifted as wreckage, and the rest fled in terrified retreat. The Retribution remained in orbit, a smoldering Earth like a wrath-forged guardian. Ryan stood upon the bridge, staring down at the shattered cradle of human civilization. Victory tasted bitter. The planet was still dead, and 3 billion souls remained ash in the winds of history. Yet the fractured colonies now carried a spark of hope. The Vrexians would answer for their crimes. Humanity's fury had awakened, and it would burn until every life lost was avenged. Word of Earth's battle spread across the Vrexian Empire like wildfire. Admiral Thexar, one of the few survivors, delivered his account of the phantom human warship that materialized from nothing and erased an entire battle group. High Command dismissed him, calling it the delusions of a defeated commander, until the Retribution struck again 3 days later, the Vrexian stronghold. At Arcturus housed the 5th Training Fleet, a haven where young officers practiced maneuvers and studied tactics and safety. The base commander was reviewing officer evaluations when every alarm erupted at once. The Retribution had materialized overhead, and in the space of a heartbeat, the base ceased to exist. Captain Ryan Hughes reviewed the Arcturus strike logs while Chief Engineer Lisa Carter verified system integrity. Quantum transit executed flawlessly. Weapons fired without a single miscalculation. Neutronium hull integrity was untouched. The ship could wage war like this for years with no repairs. Lieutenant Commander Greg Foster projected future targets across the main tactical screen. The Vrexian Empire held 300 star systems with military assets across most. Ryan could not strike them all, but he could gut their war machine. Each warship destroyed meant fewer hunters chasing human refugees. Each base erased gave the colonies precious time to arm and fortify. Executive Officer Nicole Perry voiced unease. Eventually, the Vrexians would learn, adapt, and set traps, seeking to predict the Retribution's next strike. Ryan acknowledged the risk, but emphasized their singular advantage, the quantum drive. Standard jump systems relied on fixed coordinates and known lanes. The Retribution could leap anywhere, at any moment, leaving not even a whisper of a trail. Dr. Helen Brooks worried about the political fallout. The Vrexian Empire ruled countless species by terror. If it collapsed too fast, half the galaxy might plunge into chaos and civil war. Ryan respected her concern, but humanity's survival came first. Other civilizations would have to weather their own storms. Their next objective, the Xerxes Nebula shipyards, where intelligence confirmed 6 new dreadnoughts under assembly to replace those lost above Earth. Ryan vowed those vessels would never see battle. The Retribution slipped through folded space and emerged inside swirling nebula clouds. The shipyard's defenses activated instantly, but the Retribution's point defense batteries shredded incoming missiles like dust. Lieutenant Amy Phillips coordinated firing solutions while Sam Rogers jammed communications. Severing any hope of reinforcements, the Helix cannon unleashed its power, and the first dreadnought, still cradled in scaffolding, unraveled into nothing, scorching the surface like an avenging sentinel. On the bridge, Ryan stared down at his ruined world. The triumph felt hollow. Earth remained a charred husk, and 3 billion lives lay extinguished. Still, the scattered survivors among the colonies now held a spark of hope. The Vrexians would answer for their crimes. Humanity's wrath had been unleashed, and it would not rest until the ledger was paid. News of the Retribution's strikes rippled through the Vrexian Empire like contagion. Emperor Rexthal, who had ruled for 2 centuries, convened his war council on Rexos. His generals argued tactics, while admirals demanded ships and materiel. As they bickered, the old ruler felt an emotion he had not known in decades: fear. The humans had been dismissed as an insignificant species until they produced a weapon that threatened the Empire itself. Chancellor Mekavar urged diplomacy, but Rexthal refused. The Empire did not parley with inferiors. Yielding would invite revolt among subject races. Instead, he ordered the mobilization of the 2nd and 7th Fleets, more than 900 vessels between them. Surely that armada could crush a single human ship. The 2nd Fleet assembled in the Krell Expanse under Admiral Vextor aboard the heavy battleship Endless Conquest. His squadrons spread into a wide sweep across dozens of light years, ordered to find and annihilate the Retribution. Vextor felt certain. 900 ships against 1 were favorable odds, even against alien technology. But the Retribution refused to wait. Ryan analyzed the fleet deployment and found the flaw. They were too thinly arrayed over too vast an area. He selected a point on the formation's fringe and folded the Retribution directly into the heart of 50 Vrexian vessels. The enemy scrambled, cramped, and slow to respond. The Retribution unleashed a storm. Nuclear torpedoes streaked outward and detonated against hulls. The Helix cannon shredded 3 ships in a single sustained blast, and the railguns hammered without respite. 15 Vrexian ships went dark within the first 2 minutes. Survivors tried to flee, but the Retribution chased and cut them down one by one. Time and again, Ryan slipped the ship to new sectors of the 2nd Fleet and struck with brutal speed, denying the enemy time to reorganize. Communications jammed, and sensors could not track quantum jumps. Admiral Vextor watched his armada unravel and admitted defeat. He ordered the remainder to scatter in every direction. 900 ships had been whittled to fewer than 200 in a single day. Ryan felt no triumph as wreckage drifted past the viewport. Each Vrexian ship destroyed was retribution for Earth, but it could not summon the dead back. His hands were stained, even if the stain was alien blood. He wondered who he had been before. All this and who he was becoming. The line between justice and revenge seemed thinner than he had imagined. He pushed the thoughts down and told Nicole to plot the next course. The war was far from over, and humanity's foes still needed to learn what it meant to face a species that would not bow. Cracks began to appear across the Empire. Subjugated, peoples inspired by the Retribution strikes dared to hope. Rebellions ignited on mining worlds where slave labor had fattened Vrexian nobles. Pirate bands from the fringe swelled and harried supply lines. An empire that had stood for 3,000 years was showing stress fractures. Dr. Helen Brooks's intelligence network fed Ryan reports of uprisings and of human survivors relaying reconnaissance through encrypted channels. Ryan studied the incoming data and marked systems that could become allies or surgical targets. The Retribution blinked into orbit above Theteris Prime without warning, a colony world home to 40 million Vexians and a regional military hub. 8 orbital defense platforms ringed the approaches, and an 80-ship garrison patrolled the system. Nicole highlighted the military objectives on the tactical sphere. Ryan's orders were simple and absolute. Disable the defenses, magistrates, clear, but keep civilian casualties to an absolute minimum. The Retribution would not mirror the Vrexian atrocity that had claimed Earth. Lieutenant Commander Greg Foster orchestrated the strike. Rail batteries picked their targets with scalpel-like accuracy and reduced the orbital platforms to twisted metal within 90 seconds. The garrison's fleet attempted interception, but the Retribution's speed and agility outmatched them. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter rerouted surplus power to the thrust systems, and the ship weaved through hostile formations like a dancer. The Helix cannon fired short, precise bursts that shredded military installations, while leaving cities below largely intact. Desperate, the garrison admiral tried to ram the Retribution with his flagship in a last-ditch suicide maneuver. Ryan ordered an evasive vector, and the human vessel slipped free at the final instant. The Vrexian flagship overshot and tumbled into the void. Sam Rogers sent a narrow-beam transmission to the crippled commander offering terms of surrender. The officer spat a refusal and pressed his attack until the Retribution's point defenses tore out his engine arrays. The flagship died in space. The remaining ships broke formation and fled. Ryan let them go. He wanted witnesses, survivors who would carry the tale. Humanity would not forget what the Vrexians had done. Humanity was coming for retribution, but it would not descend to the Empire's level of cruelty. On Theterus, prime millions of Vexian civilians lifted their faces to the heavens and watched their fleet burn. For the first time, many of them truly felt fear. Emperor Rexthal viewed the battlefield feeds and felt his grasp on the Empire loosen. 2 centuries of rule founded on terror were cracking beneath the shadow of one human warship. Advisors whispered, "Surrender and parley." Rexthal hushed them with a single motion. The Vrexian Empire would never bow to inferiors. He greenlit Project Hellfire and poured unlimited resources into its completion. Project Hellfire was conceived to negate the Retribution's advantages. Engineers studied the signatures from each, strike and devised a countermeasure to the quantum fold, a way to disturb space-time distortions and strand the human vessel in conventional space long enough for sheer numbers to prevail. The device required 6 weeks to perfect. Rexthal ordered his fleets to avoid confrontation until then. Ryan had no intention of granting them 6 weeks. Lieutenant Amy Phillips intercepted encrypted transmissions about Project Hellfire and managed to decrypt fragments. Dr. Helen Brooks examined the partial schematics and confirmed the weapon could function if given time. Ryan convened his senior staff and outlined a new campaign: hit every major Vrexian military node in rapid, crippling strikes before Project Hellfire could be finished. Successive waves. Strike with such ferocity and speed that the Empire would be forced to yield before Project Hellfire could be completed. The offensive opened at the Obsidian Cluster, home of the 5th Fleet. The Retribution emerged inside their battle formation and unleashed devastation. Nuclear warheads, antimatter lances, and hypersonic rail rounds shredded enemy vessels. The 5th Fleet knew the rumors of the human phantom ship, but rumors crumbled before reality. Admiral Kexnor attempted to rally a unified defense, yet the Retribution remained too swift and too ruthless. His fleet ceased to exist within an hour. The next target was the military academy orbiting Vex Prime. Thousands of young Vexian cadets trained there to someday serve the Empire's war machine. Ryan paused before issuing the strike order. These were trainees, not seasoned killers. But Nicole reminded him that those cadets would one day command the fleets used to hunt human survivors. The orbital installations were annihilated, yet Ryan spared the ground structures. He refused to slaughter students sitting in classrooms, regardless of his fury toward the Empire. The assaults continued relentlessly, day after day. The 9th Fleet perished at the Crimson Reach. The supply station at Vex Minor went up in flames. The communications network at Razville went silent. Every target identified by intelligence was struck and erased. The Retribution tore across the Empire like a vengeful specter, leaving ruin everywhere it appeared. The crew operated in rotating shifts without rest. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter snatched minutes of sleep as she forced the engines to operate at peak output. Lieutenant Commander Greg Foster refined his firing solutions with every battle. Yet the endless conflict weighed heavily on morale. Sam Rogers found Ryan alone in his cabin late one night, asking how long they could keep going. Ryan offered no clear answer. Their purpose was to break the Vexian Empire and secure humanity's future. But where was the line between justice and annihilation? The Vrexians had murdered 3 billion humans in one attack. How many Vrexian soldiers must fall before balance was restored? Ryan pushed those doubts aside and focused on the mission. The Retribution leapt to its next objective and then another. Each victory bought humanity's scattered remnants more time to rebuild and prepare. Every obliterated Vrexian ship meant one less threat to the remaining 200 million humans. The war would end only when the Empire surrendered or when the Retribution finally met a foe it could not overcome. Until that moment, Ryan would continue fighting, honoring Earth's memory by ensuring humanity endured. The broadcast came without warning across every channel. Emperor Vrexthal contacted the Retribution himself, declaring unconditional surrender. The Vrexian Empire, unchallenged for 3 millennia, had fallen. Its armadas were wrecked, and its subjugated worlds had risen in revolt. The Emperor spoke without pride or menace. His, weary, broken, and resigned to whatever terms humanity demanded. Captain Ryan Hughes remained seated in his command chair, listening to the broadcast for the 3rd time. First Officer Nicole Perry stood at his side, silent and waiting. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter kept her attention on power levels. Lieutenant Commander Greg Foster maintained weapons lock, prepared in case this surrender was a deception. Dr. Helen Brooks scanned the signal for hidden triggers or coded traps, but it was authentic. The Vrexians were yielding. Ryan's thoughts drifted to the 3 billion lost on Earth. He pictured his sister, his parents, every face that had believed in him and counted on his protection. The anger and grief that had fueled him for so long suddenly felt like dust. Revenge was supposed to heal wounds, yet now Ryan felt only numb. He glanced at his crew. Their eyes showed the same drained fatigue. They had achieved victory, yet it felt empty. He opened a channel to answer the Emperor. Ryan's tone was level and merciless as he spoke the surrender terms. The Vrexian Empire would be disbanded at once. All armed forces would stand down. Every race taken by force would regain its freedom instantly. The Vrexian population would keep their homeworld, but would never again leave it. Orbital enforcement stations would watch them forever, and any violation would bring immediate destruction from above. Emperor Vrexthal appeared on the screen. The ancient ruler looked withered, his scales dull and his eyes haunted. He accepted every demand without protest. The empire that once dominated countless stars now held only Vexos. The emperor who ruled through terror now pleaded for mercy. Ryan felt no triumph in witnessing his downfall. Only weariness remained. The following weeks plunged the galaxy into disorder. 47 species once bound under Vrexian rule announced independence. Some instantly reignited old feuds and border wars. Others attempted peaceful rebuilding. A few contacted humanity's surviving colonies seeking partnership. The ancient galactic structure had collapsed, replaced by an uncertain new era. Dr. Helen Brooks and a diplomatic council began forming the Federation of Free Worlds, a voluntary alliance of sovereign species choosing cooperation over domination. Humanity's remnants were invited as founding members. The surviving 200 million humans would help shape the future. But one condition halted Ryan. The Federation demanded the Retribution be Lieutenant Amy Phillips delivered the official request from the Federation Council. Their message was clear and calm. The Retribution was unmatched in power. Its presence alone disrupted the fragile balance between species. For the Federation to trust humanity, they needed proof humanity would not wield its weapon over them. The fall of the Vrexian Empire showed the ship's capability. Now retiring it would show humanity sought unity, not domination. Ryan assembled his senior officers in the conference chamber and explained the situation in full. Nicole argued that the ship must remain for defense. Another danger could arise someday. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter noted that the technology aboard could strengthen Allied defenses if shared. Sam Rogers proposed keeping the vessel hidden in reserve as a safeguard. But Dr. Helen Brooks presented the final perspective. Humanity could not build its future on fear. If they wanted to join the galaxy as equals, they had to surrender their greatest weapon. The crew voted and all agreed. The Retribution would stand down. It had fulfilled its purpose. Now a new era demanded a new path. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter began powering down the quantum cores. The helix cannon was dismantled and its antimatter disposed into a star. Quantum drive knowledge was released to Federation researchers so all species could advance. The neutronium armor would be reforged into shields for fragile settlements. Ryan Hughes stood upon the bridge one last time, offering a silent farewell to the ship that had been both fortress and blade. The Retribution had guided humanity through its darkest days and struck fear into those who threatened them. Yet conflict ends and warriors must adapt. The memories of battles fought and lives taken weighed heavy, but humanity endured, and that was enough. The crew dispersed to new paths. Lieutenant Amy Phillips entered intelligence, tracking emerging dangers. Sam Rogers became an instructor at the new Naval Academy, training cadets from many worlds. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter developed defense grids for frontier colonies. Lieutenant Commander Greg Foster helped design peacekeeping standards. Dr. Helen Brooks became humanity's voice in the Federation Council. Ryan declined the offer to serve as Federation Fleet Admiral. He had wielded command in war. Peace required another kind of leader. Returning to New Terra, he accepted a professor's role at the university. He would teach those who had not lived the war, ensuring its lessons endured. A future built on cooperation, not fury. 5 years faded. The Federation of Free Worlds now counted 73 species. Trade bloomed across the stars, lifting worlds long oppressed by Vrexian rule. Watch stations around Vexos confirmed the former empire honored its terms. No fleets, no expansion. Some Vrexians whispered of reclaiming their old strength, but most accepted their fate. Ryan Hughes lectured at New Terra University. His classroom held both human and alien students studying the war that shaped their peace. Today's lesson focused on humanity's conflict with the Vrexian realm. Ryan stood before a room of bright eyes. Some had no memory of Earth's fall. Others came from species freed by the war's end. Retribution's campaign? A student lifted their hand, asking the question Ryan knew would appear sooner or later. Why did humanity stop? Why not erase the Vrexians completely? They had wiped out Earth. Did they not deserve annihilation? Ryan exhaled slowly before responding. He explained that revenge may feel righteous, but it comes with a cost beyond blood. True power was knowing when to stop, choosing mercy instead of endless slaughter. Another student asked if he regretted dismantling the Retribution. It could have shielded humanity from future threats, yet it was taken apart and dispersed. Ryan smiled faintly and shook his head. The ship had fulfilled its destiny. It saved humanity when survival seemed impossible. Keeping it would have turned humanity into the very monster they fought. Strength without restraint becomes tyranny, regardless of who holds it. After class, Ryan crossed the university grounds. New Terra shone with blue skies and thick forests. In 5 years, the settlement had grown from 50,000 to 500,000. Human refugees blended with alien settlers seeking refuge. The university mirrored that change. Humans and aliens learning side by side, forging bonds never possible in the old galaxy. Ryan's communicator chimed. Former crew from the Retribution were holding a reunion and invited him. He accepted, preparing to travel to the orbital station. It would be good to see them again. They shared a bond forged in war, one that time could never break. The gathering was held in a private lounge overlooking the world below. Ryan entered to find Nicole Perry already there, along with Lisa Carter and Greg Foster. Sam Rogers arrived with Amy Phillips late as usual. Dr. Helen Brooks sent greetings from the council, busy mediating a border dispute. They embraced, trading stories of their new paths. Nicole captained a merchant carrier. Lisa had married and begun raising children. Greg now designed vessels for the Federation Defense Fleet. The talk stretched long into the night, until the conversation drifted to old battles. Arcturus, the final strike at the 9th Fleet above. Rexos, painful memories but necessary ones. They had taken countless Vrexian lives. Even justified, those deaths lingered heavy. Ryan spoke of his students and their questions. The youth wanted simple answers for complicated choices. They had never carried command's weight, nor chosen between bad and worse. Nicole remarked that this ignorance was a blessing. The galaxy needed hopeful generations who believed in peace. The old warriors could bear the shadows, so the young did not have to. Discussion shifted to what lay ahead. The Federation was steady yet delicate. Some worlds demanded greater defenses, others feared another empire rising. Humanity's place was still being defined, savior to some, threat to others. The legacy of retribution cut both ways. Lisa mentioned rumblings of Rexian extremists, small radicals refusing to accept defeat and dreaming of revenge. No fleets, no buildup, but worrying signs nonetheless. Ryan nodded, noting it was something the Federation must address together. Humanity could not police the stars alone. They had to trust allies. As the reunion neared its end, Ryan stood before the large viewport staring into space. Somewhere out there, Earth continued healing. Terraforming crews restored air and rebuilt shattered cities. Some scars would never fade, but life was returning. Humanity had endured its darkest trial. 3 billion gone, 200 million surviving and growing. He thought of the retribution. Now just memory and archive. Its crew scattered across the stars, living new lives. The weapons that shattered armadas dismantled. The armor that defied destruction reforged for protection. The quantum drive once feared, now a shared gift. The battleship that changed history had fulfilled its purpose and faded into legend. A young human pair walked past, laughing and holding hands. Born after the war, they knew it only from lessons. They faced a galaxy shaped by unity, where cooperation replaced conquest. Ryan watched them, feeling a quiet spark of hope. The cost of vengeance was immense, but the reward was a future where humanity lived without fear. He returned to his crew, raising a